Hello and welcome to On the House, the podcast where we talk about movies, TV shows, and video games, because hey, whatever we want to cover's on the house. Joining me as always is Dave,
Hello there.
and that's it. That's all you get. Just a dynamic duo, people. And folks, we got a new thing for On the House, something that we actually were going to make kind of the base of this show, but well, have you been outside in the last 10 months?
Well, you shouldn't have been. Because if you were, then that's your fault.
Yeah, folks, there haven't exactly been new releases for us to cover, but we do have one. Thanks to HBO Max, we were all able to see Wonder Woman 84. Which, no, it is not the 83rd sequel to the original Wonder Woman. It's just set in the year 1984. But anyways, folks, we're going to just dive in, and we're going to keep this spoiler-free for the most part, but as we get a little further in, we'll start talking about some spoilers. But first off, Dave, what were your overall thoughts of the movie?
Well, the original Wonder Woman is, so far, in my view, the best of the DCEU movies, and definitely the one where people started to feel these things could actually not be awful. Like, Wonder Woman and Shazam are the highest for me. This was kind of a step down, but there's still plenty of good things about it that I would definitely give it a rewatch and recommend to people.
Yeah, I definitely agree with this. While the original Wonder Woman, I think, is amazing for 2 acts, and then the third act, it kind of starts falling apart, but never enough to ruin the entire movie. This, I'd say, is enjoyably good throughout the film. Now, the film has its issues, and we'll definitely get into it, but overall, I definitely would say I've enjoyed the ride with this one, despite its flaws. But you're probably wondering, what's the plot of this movie? Well, Wonder Woman is still doing all her Wonder Woman stuff and kind of hiding in plain sight. But she finds this mysterious object called the MacGuffin. Yes, the MacGuffin grants all the wishes. No, it's not actually called that, but it might as frickin' well be. But unfortunately, these wishes get granted at a cost. What that cost is varies for each individual, and honestly, it's kind of inconsistent throughout the film. But that's your main plot going on, as Maxwell Lord, the main villain of the film, uses this in order to gain powers for himself. But along the sideways, you have some side plots like Steve Trevor coming back, and a new character, Cheetah. No, she doesn't start out Cheetah, but that's what you're going to call her throughout the entire film anyway, so let's just call her Cheetah. And yes, folks, she does look a billion times better than that movie Cats.
Though, since you introduced them, like, one thing that struck me after the first viewing of this was that, sure, there's tons of extras, but this movie has, for a major blockbuster, just one of the overall smallest casts. Like, there's Wonder Woman, Steve, Cheetah, Max Lord, and then there really aren't many other characters who even get multiple scenes.
No, there's no one real consequence. I mean, even characters you think would be a big deal, like there was a warlord or that Maxwell Lord visits, and he's only really there for a scene and then like a 2-second cameo later in the film. But overall, I'd say the plot, on paper, everything works good. The execution, it kind of struggles throughout here, and there's definitely some implications with the Steve Trevor character that I don't think they fully thought through all the way. I'll rephrase that. They definitely did not think through all the way.
I'll go into this more with spoilers, but I do think this feels not so much like a film that had massive rewrites, but a lot of subtle ones that gradually added up.
Mm-hmm. I've seen someone make the comparison that's like, it feels like they dropped like in a TV show, when they set up a subplot and then decide not to do it.
Yeah.
It kind of has that feel to some of its stuff where it's like, I feel like there was something that was going to be there, but then they went against it.
Though for one of the movie's major strengths, continuing from the first movie, Gal Gadot and Chris Pine have some excellent chemistry.
Oh, yeah, I mean, Gal Gadot has really, as much doubt as I had with her going in, and even with the first couple movies where I thought her acting was kind of a bit shaky, she's
Mhm.
really grown into this character, made it her own.
Heck, the first Wonder Woman was the first time I remember any superhero movie actually making me care about the love story.
Hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a good one, and personally for my wife and I, it kind of helps that we both have a person we're allowed to cheat on list, and both of our people are in this movie, so it's some nice eye candy for both me and my wife.
It also makes me wish Gadot and Pine would just start dating in real life.
Yeah, I think he's married though, isn't he?
I didn't look it up.
I have no idea. I don't really follow celebrities' personal lives.
I mean, like, before Wonder Woman, I was hearing how Chris Pine was always the blandest of the white guys named Chris who were big in the 2010s, but he's really impressed me over the years.
Yeah, I especially love him in that one movie. I think it's The Finest Hour or something, where he plays the Coast Guard rescue.
Yeah, I'd have to check that one out.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. But I will also say, I don't know where I was going to go with that. But really, the whole cast of characters in this, I thought were enjoyable. You got Maxwell Lord, who I'd say he's supposed to be an allegory for a certain president, but I think he's the less evil version of that president if we're looking at current events right now.
Yeah, it just struck me watching this movie that by comparison, this guy isn't so bad. Like, Max Lord seems fine.
Yeah. And then what did you think of the Cheetah character?
Well, and this is something that people have pointed out now. This seems like another attempt at an archetype that have been frequently done in comic book movies that no one ever seems to really like the nerdy person, always with glasses, who just suddenly gains a lot of power and just turns bitter and angry, even though they were often like played by attractive people in the first place. There was Jim Carrey's Riddler, Jamie Foxx's Electro. Um, uh, I know there were other examples. Like
Michelle
I get
Pfeiffer.
yeah, and even like Uma Thurman and Batman and Robin.
Hmm. Yeah, I was actually going to bring up that very point if you hadn't. It's one of my least favorite tropes of here are these super attractive actors and Jim Carrey. Let's put glasses on them and then they won't look attractive.
Oh yeah, and Guy Pearce in Iron Man 3.
Oh, right. You know, I saw that meme and I could not put together who the one character was, and now I remember, oh, yeah, it was Guy Pearce.
Though I will say, I think Kristen Wiig's variation on this, like, it's one of the lesser bothering because it does take her a while to become a full-on villain. She doesn't really become evil to the last act, and
And it's not so much that, oh, I'm going to get my revenge. It's more so, it's the corruption of the wish granting article that does it. And they keep it subtle enough. I'd say for this trope, it's one of the better versions of it.
yeah.
I still think Catwoman and Batman Returns is probably the best example of it done well. But I also have a soft spot in my heart for that movie.
And I will say that because this film's been in production for a long time, back when we first got the first photos in 2018, I'm glad they just were upfront about the fact Steve was somehow coming back, like they weren't playing coy with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that it would have been hard not to have it leak to the press where they were kind of.
Mhm.
I'm glad that they just did it.
It's the same reason why I'm glad that when they first started working on episode 9, they just flat out said, this is what we're doing with Leia. We're using stock footage that wasn't from used in the previous two ones, and that's how we're going to close our arc.
Yeah. Although I can definitely say this with episode 9, now that it's been a long enough time that anyone who is going to care about it has seen it. I definitely think that scene with Harrison Ford was originally supposed to be with Leia.
Though there is that whole like early script draft from the original director that leaked a few months after it came out that we knew what they were originally planning.
Yeah. But anyways, this is not the Star Wars podcast. This is about Wonder Woman, who fights in wars and has stars on her outfit.
Though I will say, like, one thing wasn't a huge issue for me, but compared to the first one, which made great use of the World War One setting, the '80s setting of this didn't feel as prevalent, especially compared to a lot of other films from this era that used the '80s as a period piece.
Yeah, which I gotta admit, I kind of enjoyed that for a change because honestly, there's like Stranger Things and stuff like that does it well, but there's also so many films that have come out and it's just like, look at the 80s. Can you believe they all dressed like extras from the Lost Boys?
Like, honestly, from maybe after the moment where they start flying to Egypt and back, like, if you just would have said that the rest of the movie was taking place in the modern day, I would have believed it.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, I think part of that is, like we said, it is a very small cast, especially for a blockbuster superhero film. And really, the Princess Diana character doesn't lend herself really to a lot of the tropes of the 80s, like going to the super mall and jazzercise and all that weird stuff, you know?
Well, her first scene after the prologue was actually precisely that.
This is true, but you know what I'm saying. In general, it's not going to be like a huge subplot for her character.
Mhm.
But shall we start speaking of spoilers a little bit? I feel like for our issues, we kind of need to get into it in order to actually cover it.
Okay. Though I will ask, should we gradually build up the elephant in the room or just say it bluntly?
I say we treat it like the Incredible Hulk and just have it out in the open, crashing through walls immediately.
Okay, so other people have already talked about this and probably in better ways than we will, but does Wonder Woman effectively rape a guy in this?
Yeah, it's this very weird thing that really makes like I said, there's like no consistency with the wishing power because it's like when Steve Trevor is brought back, it's not actually him being brought back. It's like his consciousness is put into another character, like some random dude you don't even see in the movie prior to that. I mean, if you see him, it's such a blink and miss it that I didn't notice. And then in other scenes, it's like it's able to create nuclear weapons and a wall out of thin air, you know?
Well, there's the fact that because instead of just reversing, like reviving his soul and by putting it in another guy's body, they also specifically point out that only Wonder Woman sees him as Steve. Everyone else sees the regular guy's body. And you know what? That isn't so much bad on its own, but then there's a scene that shows they slept together, and the implications of that are just
Yeah, I
wrong.
definitely would say that's something for me when I was watching the film. I didn't quite catch immediately, but like as soon as I got done and started thinking about it, I was like, oh my gosh, nobody caught that? But, you know, I think they could have fixed this. Not so much the implication there, but as to why he's possessing another guy's body in a very quick way would be establish this character, show that he's kind of hitting on Wonder Woman, has a crush on her, and make his wish be, I wish I could be someone who she loved. Boom. Then it's kind of a monkey paw wish right there, you know?
Or or maybe just you could have it as is, just cut the bit where they slept together.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like the gimmick here is Wonder Woman's price for her wish is she's gradually losing her powers.
Hmm.
Though not completely, she can still twirl the lasso, and she still takes damage from bullets, but she doesn't like completely like go down from them.
Yeah, which I will say, I don't know if it's for me. They say it takes like the thing you care about the most, but I never felt with Wonder Woman her powers were something she cared about the absolute most, you know?
And I think they did clarify that once Max became the stone, that he could choose what the price was.
Oh, true, true. Although I will say it's for Kristen Wiig's character Cheetah, she wishes to be like Diane, not realizing that there's some added benefits of having her superpowers and whatnot.
So, did you think any of the fight or action scenes really stood out for you in this one?
Uh, let's see. As I wanted more of the brawl between her and Cheetah. Just what we got was enjoyable, but it's kind of like you spent the whole film building up to it, and it's probably only like a 4 minute fight. I would
And
prefer it to be longer.
and that one fight scene that's in the trailer is the only time you see her in the full cat form.
Exactly. That's why I kind of want. You asked me earlier today who I would want as the villain for the next one, and honestly, I'd like to see Cheetah as the main antagonist for the next film.
And to be fair, they don't kill the villains off in this one,
No,
so
they don't. I actually kind of like how they handled the Maxwell Lord character.
I mean, it was pretty much canon in the comics that Wonder Woman pulled a Man of Steel on him.
Yeah, that's true. Wonder Woman's character has been written very inconsistently over the years.
But I will say, like, this really isn't anything major, but like the one big missed opportunity was okay. They specifically say it's 84, and the climax involves like Max Lord contacting like the whole world at once through this satellite and getting the world's wishes because he needs wishes to like keep himself powered. Considering the timeline that Batman or Superman said this event happened, they should have had like a young Bruce wishing for his parents back.
Ooh, yeah, that definitely would have made sense. But then again, that would also be another subplot that would just kind of happen and then disappear out of nowhere.
Well, maybe not like have it be a subplot, but just like a little Easter egg during the finale.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, what would that do to the Batman character? Just thinking about it.
Well, he probably would have rescinded it like everybody else does.
Yeah, that's true. I will say, speaking of subplots that kind of they hint at and then don't, Maxwell Lord's son, I thought they were gonna do something more with where like he also got the powers or something, you know? Just it's like they felt like they were about to set that up and then it didn't happen.
And I felt there was going on what you said, like about how there felt like there was a subplot or just more character moments to drop. I felt like there was supposed to be more of Barbara like explaining why she became so bitter than there was actually shown in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's kind of explained through like the corruption of the stone and the power, but it's like they did such a good job like making her a likable character at the start of the movie that it's kind of like I don't know if she would have gone all the way, but then again, we wouldn't have much of a plot. Like we've said, it's kind of one of those films where I enjoy it despite its flaws. It's like a roller coaster for me. Yeah, this effect and this effect doesn't exactly work in the Disney park, but as a whole, you enjoy it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, for my issues with it, there's a lot of good stuff that makes me find this is a fine movie that I'll probably watch again.
Hmm.
I actually watched it twice already, like after I got HBO Max. And
I will say I do kind of have a controversial opinion on one scene I thought they should have cut.
yes,
Opening where she's a little girl and they're doing that giant race thing. I didn't think it added anything to the film aside from here's these characters from the last movie.
I mean, it was supposed to set up the theme of like, don't take the shortcuts, or
Yeah, but I don't know. I felt like they did that throughout the film enough, anyways, that it didn't really add much to the film. But that's just me.
I'm just surprised there wasn't at least a second scene with them too. Like that was it. The prologue. That's the only time you see the other Amazons.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, like, my favorite like one-liner from the movie is during the scene where they're stealing a jet, and when Steve is thinking, "We'll be able to get away," and then Wonder Woman points out because he's been dead since the 1910s that there's radar now, they can track us. Just the way Pine says, "Well, shit, Diana."
Yeah, really. We keep going back to this, but it's like the chemistry between the two. It's so good. It's like, on the one hand, I don't want them to bring him back for the third movie just because then it would be like, here we go again. But on the other hand, it's like, they're so good together in these films. It's like, I hate seeing that chemistry not on screen, you know?
Well, maybe just do what the 70s series did and just have him play like an identical, like, descendant.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that, but it kind of comes into the Winter Soldier issue where it's like it worked in the comics, but I don't know how well it works in the live action movies.
And speaking of the 70s Wonder Woman, you see her at the post credits, mid credits actually.
Yeah, I gotta say that was probably one of my favorite post credit teases I've seen in a long time because they established the character that originally wore this golden armor that you've seen her in all the trailers. But you never see the character's face or anything, and, you know, at the time you just think, okay, that's an artistic choice. But then it's revealed, oh no, that character actually survived. And it is the original Wonder Woman actress from the classic television show.
Linda Carter herself showed up. So do we think that she's going to have a role in the third one? Like they'll expand on this, or is this just like a cute little, hey, like this is acknowledging our past?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I know what you've said about the villains, but like story-wise, what would you want out of a third movie? Because it sounds like they're going to set it in the modern day to close the trilogy.
Mm-hmm. I think in terms of her character, since she's been so much the one who's kind of operated off to the side and whatnot, not been known, I think it would be interesting if after the events of Justice League, kind of suddenly she's thrust into this spotlight. Although, this does make me raise a question that I just thought of.
Yeah.
Which Justice League is going to be counted as canon now?
The thing is, though, it's basically a poorly kept secret that the Flash movie is going to be a Flashpoint variation.
Yeah, true.
So there's a good chance that what comes after that, they'll just be picking and choosing what of the old movies they liked. Like Gal Gadot and Jason Momoa will be still around because everybody liked their movies. Cavill and Affleck, like who knows what'll be with them.
Mm-hmm. Which I gotta say, I did love Affleck as Batman. I just think it's a shame he wasn't in good movies.
I love Jeremy Irons as Alfred. That was like one of the legit best casting choices for a supporting character.
Oh yeah, I love that.
And let's see, is there anything else I want to bring up? As you're the more comic knowledgeable one between us, is there any like little nods or inclusions of things from the comics that you appreciated that like weren't major plot points?
You know, this is gonna be kind of obvious, but I do like how they worked in the Invisible Jet. Again, that's not exactly a subtle nod or Easter egg or anything, but just that's something I never thought I'd see on the TV screens, you know?
And I think I read that when they go to the Middle East, they mention a fictional country that DC Comics writers use to as a metaphor for real ones.
Oh yeah, the I forget the name of it, but
The Alia or something.
it's kind of like how there's in Marvel, there's the fictional Latveria of the generic European evil nation. Well, folks, I think we're about ready to wrap up our thoughts here. So, Dave, what were your overall opinions on the film?
I think this was a pretty decent follow up. It's not as good as the original, but the chemistry between Godot and Pine, it's always fascinating to watch. The action scenes, while there weren't as many as I might have wanted, were still thrilling, and I like how they were able to end the movie without killing the villains. And it's just a feel good movie at the end of a very not good year, but
Exactly. I'd say for me, no, it definitely has its issues. I don't really like giving films ranking, but this is very much what I would give kind of a B tier ranking to. It's got its plot holes, but if you can overlook it for a little while and just enjoy the film, you're gonna have a good time with it.
okay. So since this is the ninth of the DCEU films, like where would you rank it?
Oh,
Well, what do you say? Top three, middle three, or bottom three? Because we can divide it by thirds evenly.
I'd say top three, but I'm people who know me know I am not a Zack Snyder fan by any stretch. So the Superman and Batman v Superman, it's like those just films aesthetically I do not like at all. So yeah, I'd say top three.
And so because we won't be able to like talk about this till the summer, since we also got a preview for this like back in this summer, you feeling hopeful about Suicide Squad 2?
I am because it's James Gunn and I like his movies. I mean, I will say I did just recently watch Birds of Prey, and I thought that movie was absolutely terrible.
I
So
liked
I
it.
would say, hey, this is definitely a step up from Birds of Prey and the other Suicide Squad type stuff. But in terms of Suicide Squad, yeah, I'd say I'm hopeful for it. They got a
I'm
good cast and a good director.
I'm glad that between this and Suicide Squad 2, like the DC movies can start being viewed as sub franchises and not all like comparing them to the different heroes.
Hmm. Yeah, Marvel's captured lightning in the bottle with all its stuff, so
Mhm.
I think I like what DC's doing now. It's like, okay, we can't play Marvel's game, so let's just do our own thing and enjoy it.
I mean, imagine by the mid 20s, perhaps we'll be in a world where Aquaman and Wonder Woman are the big heroes of DC compared to Batman and Superman.
Yeah, that would be interesting considering what only 5 years ago everyone was like, but he still talks to fish, even though if you read the comics, you were like, no, hush up. But anyways, folks, we want to thank you for joining us, Dave. As always, want to thank you for joining us on the podcast today.
I'm glad I could be here.
And folks, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Toodles.